Okay. Welcome to all classmates. This time we held debate where we will share our opinions and answers to questions about the possible conspiracy at 9/11. We hope our contributions to this controversial topic are very understandable. Let's start. Okay. The first question is: could the U.S. Air Force have prevented the attacks? This is my answer. The Air Force was able to prevent attacks since the United States has one of the best aeronautical technologies, with which it showed on video that different flights could be tracked. It justified that at times several flags were found an air hijacking exercise, in which they could get entangled with the real ones. However, this is not excuse to the lack of action by the Air Force at the time of the events or the incompetent work in tracking and located the hijacking flight. And consequently, the reaction and action of the US Air Force is one of the fastest. So it's very likely that the different hijacked flights will be located quickly. It- um, in conclusion, my response is yes. Um, the U.S. Air Force have prevented the attacks. Um, Mayerly, the next.
Good evening. My answer is they could have avoided the attacks because although that they are done military training exercise was carried out, it could have acted quickly and effectively from the moment of the first blow of the attack. But there was confusion and lack of communication. The controllers of air traffic was not in constant contact with the military. I lack a major command to lead this whole process, but they just stayed with their armors crossed and left and waited for everything to happen. Finish.
Okay, okay, Mayerly, thanks. Maria Paula.
Okay, there are many conspiracy theories of the September 11 attacks. The video mentions that there were difficulties in intercepting. The four aircraft seems to have been the high number of military exercises that were being ignored from the base. In addition, the report reveals that the military response to the attack was slow and full of obstacles. However, the military force could not react in time due to the people who were in command. Finish.
Okay, thank you. Carmen.
The attacks could have been avoided if the National Security Agency of the United States had not ignored the surveillance system. According to an alleged theory, there is uh, no doubt that attack against the Twin Towers could have been avoided because there has always been security on the web and supposedly the executives of the agency want to enrich themselves with the tragedy. Finish.
Okay, the last, Marisol.
Hi everybody. My answer is Yes, they could. They have information and resources. They had equipped airplanes and personnel in charge of tracking flights out of their routes. USA it is a developed country that can anticipate such attacks. I finish.
Okay, in this case, our answers um, it's very similar. Yes, yes, yes. Um, it's very obvious like, that U.S. Air Force haven't prevent these attacks, um, but they couldn't. The next question, it's very difficult. Were the Twin Towers deliberate demolished by explosives? This is my answer. The Twin Towers were a structure of thin nerves of steel, forming a frame in the contour and a hollow steel shaft of the same material in the center. In each irregular structure, the central base support 60% of the total weight, and the external frame 40% of the total weight. Experts said that the heat caused by the jet fuel after the impact was what could have caused the steel to weaken, causing the structure to collapse. However, after many simulations, it was discovered that the heat caused by the impact of the airplane on these towers was not enough to weaken the steel. Few columns were found after the collapse that showed a temperature of 200 degrees Celsius, very low, very low to weaken or soften the steel. When the tower begins to collapse, we observe how the unique destruction at the top, but instead of falling a few floors and falling from the skyscraper. The tower violates the law of action and reaction of Newton and doesn't stop when the force is conserved, but that descends down to the entire building. That is why I consider that if the destruction of the twin towers was a deliberate explosion by explosives. Okay, um, Mayerly?
It's very evident that the collision of the airplanes against the Twin Towers did not generate their fall since they did not produce enough damage for this to happen. The Twin Towers were built with steel columns 2 feet weight that support 40% of the tower's weight. The internal structure was composed of 47 steel columns with the capacity to support 60% of the building's weight. The structure was built with the capacity to support 3 to 5 times the weight of the same. It was 16 times more rating than conventional, so the blow of the aircraft was completely minimal for such a good structure construction. It was assumed that the heat the plane crashing into the building had warmed and weakened the steel, which has not proven because it was totally false because temperatures were not reached enough to melt the steel, so this theory is false. On the other hand, Larry Silverstein had signed a list of the Twin Towers 6 weeks before September 11 on July 24, 2001, exactly, because there were not enough resources that could be allocated for them. New, according to analysis from the images that show the fall is the Twin Towers, I can't be deduced that a could be a demolition controlled by the particular way in which the towers fall. The demolitions are done in a linear way as necessary. In addition, it is said that 1 week before there was 36 or blackout in the towers. So there were many personnel injured in the elevators to return to normal operation, and probably together with the wiring as the demolition bombs could be inserted as the buildings were with security in those days, though the blackout on the other hand many Twister inside the firefighters declared that several explosions were following when after the first impact of the plane. This is what is called the preliminary explosions before the final one, the one that collapses the building. In addition, it is undoubtedly the particular way in which the scripts are produced, the smoke that comes out the windows. It is the typical of controlled demolitions in the same way the rapid collapse of the towers, which was rather than about 10 seconds. In highlight, this shows that was controlled demolition.
Okay, Mayerly, thank you. Very specific answer. Um, Marisol.
Okay, I think that there are different opinions about the collapse of the Twin Towers. Within these opinions, there are studies that say that the towers collapsed due to the impact of airplanes and fire. There are other opinions that say the opposite, that the towers collapsed due to explosions, and these opinions are likely and with many valid arguments. It is likely that the twin towers have collapsed due to explosions. I finish.
Okay, thank you. Um, Carmen, give us your question.
There are some theories that assume different means. Among them, there is a supports version in which the uh, architecture of the Twin Towers is discussed. It's argued that it was not the impact of aircraft that caused the fall of the towers, but that it was a demolition of the buildings. Talk about it because maybe there was some evidence, such as videos, and that in the remains was found residues of termite compound used for control demolitions. That is to say that it could have been free fall of the structures as professionals do. Finish.
Okay, thank you. Maria Paula.
In the video, it is mentioned that different types of investigations were carried out by experts to verify whether the Twin Towers were deliberately or not demolished by explosive. The focus of the investigation was in the sequence of events, from the instant of aircraft impact to the initiation on of a collapse for each tower, and since then there has been a rivalry between NIST and architects and engineers saying their own theories conclude that twin towers were brought down by the consequence of the impacts and the ensuing fires. No one of the scientific arguments by the engineers and architects that refute the official version and confirm the theory of controlled demolitions has been refuted in any way by the bunkers or by someone else.
Okay, thank you. Um, okay, we're gonna talk about of the people involved in this event of the U.S. So the third question is: were some people forewarned about the attacks? This is my answer. The videos show us that the attack was noticed a long time before the flags tied up with the twin towers. Despite this, the United States government was not interested in declaring an alert in the sirens and joined this with its lack of action to avoid it. You can point out that these are more factors in favor of which 9/11 was blamed. As it has been detected in the videos of the subject, the action of the US government has many discrepancies regarding what it did and what not regarding the hijacking of the flights, its alleged disappearance, and its subsequent clash, which is a clear indication that yes, they were warned, but they did not act as they were supposed to. This is why I think the US government planned these attacks, and the US government didn't um, didn't have prevent the attacks anytime. Okay, um, Maria Paula.
Okay, the video mentioned that before September 11, important information was kept from counterterrorists. The government of the United States had prior knowledge of what could happen. The Republican Congressman Carl Weldon denounced the pre-knowledge of information of the upcoming attack, which was intentionally withheld from the intelligence community. Also, negligence was evidenced by different organizations ignoring all related events.
Okay, thank you. Um, Majerly.
Mm, Specific warnings were made to government where it was said that there will be some kidnapped exercise. Very confusing that notices were given, but they warning of real flights, although without specific information or place. They only made known and specified possible attacks using airplanes such weapons, and although they knew that context, the terrorist threat was not an important issue on the agenda at the time.
Okay, thank you. Carmen?
There was an FBI agent who for years warned what could happen. That is to say, he referred to an attack by Osama bin Laden and coincidentally did in the attack on the Twin Towers, but unfortunately that man was never believed or paid attention to say ignore it. Finish.
Okay, thank you. Marisol is gone, so let's gonna respond the next question. The fourth question is: what was the Pentagon really hit by an airplane? This is my answer. There are many inconsistencies that reveal that there was never the impact of a plane on the Pentagon. To begin with, the wingspan doesn't correspond to that of the crash of an airplane. To the fact that the cutting of the wings in the structure is not visible. The same applies to stabilizers, since there is no damage to this in the structure. When it's assumed that they had to cross the columns in a range of 50 feet. The same story with the tail, which with a weight should have caused damage to the level of the fourth floor. But in the image, there is no greater destruction in the structure beyond the second floor. In addition to these airplane engines are supposed to contain virtual indestructible elements. However, no motor structure were found in the remains of the Pentagon, which they could not incinerate because some of these parts need between 3000 and 4000 degrees Celsius to disintegrate. For these reasons, I think that there was no impact of any airplane on the Pentagon. Okay, Carmen.
According to an alleged conspiracy theory, it's believed that the Pentagon was hit by a missile launched by elements inside the United States government, or that a commercial aircraft could do so through the fixtures of the Americans. According to theories, the conspiracies include justification of the war in Afghanistan and that of Iraq in order to promote their own interests for the construction of a natural gas pipeline through Afghanistan. Another conspiracy speak of the authorities who apparently were aware of the attacks and ignored or helped the attacks. Finish.
Okay, Karen, thank you. Maria Paula.
Okay, American Airlines Flight 77 was the third flight hijacked by terrorists. They entered the cabin of the plane and forced the passengers to go to the rear of it. One of the hijackers assumed control of the flight as a pilot, and the plane crashed into the western facade of the Pentagon, causing the death of 64 people on board and 125 people in the building.
Okay. Mayerly, give us your question. So your answer. Sorry.
Um, the official report was delivered by the FOB stated that the Pentagon was a commercial aircraft Boeing 757. According to this, wreck of the plane, in addition to the black box were found, but the first images that were released do not show the amount of debris and remains that they claimed to have found because the evidence only shows a hole of the size not consistent with that of the described aircraft since the supposed impact plane had wingspan that measured 124 feet, 50 stability feet, and were separate 3 feet from the wings. In the black, the tail had a height of 24 feet and also had two virtually indestructible engines, which were not found according to impact and destruction caused. These measures they do not match those of the plane because on the ground floor, on the feet of wingspan, had been destroyed. In addition, the hull what was generated with the impact only half a foot 15 that is we in was not caused by such a large aircraft since it is smaller than aircraft of just magnitude could generate. In addition, there are no trace or retraction might be established on the tail. Similarly, the Pentagon's facade was guarded by 85 cameras, of which only two videos of two cameras were almost relation in the same position as it was also found that the cameras were not synchronized and it is suggested that the videos were manipulated. Another aspect to highlight is that the pilot who was caused is completely unable to perform the maneuver since Honey Hunter was a flight trainee and still did not have good handling on any aircraft. Similarly, the Pentagon's uh, so he was unable to carry a disaster of this magnitude. This concludes that the disaster was totally incompatible with the Boeing 757. The video tape was altered. The pilot was incapable, and there is no considerable proof that it was flight double A77. So it is extrapolated that it should have been because via a missile, a small aircraft, or an unmanned aerial vehicle.
Okay, do you finish?
Yes.
Okay, Marisol, can you give us um, your answer for the third question?
Yes, for the third question, my answer is um, yes. The USA government received warnings from countries such as Russia and Britain years before the attacks on the Twin Towers. The intelligence agencies of these countries specifically warned of hijacking commercial aircraft and impacting them against important USA targets. The government told people that they were of war when these attacks happened, just as it happened in Pearl Harbor, because they had already been announced of possible attacks. I finished.
Okay, thank you. Um, so the four answer, please.
Okay, the fourth answer is it is likely that this has not happened as we are told. There are many inconsistencies in the details of these attacks, and the Pentagon attack was very strange. In the place were found remains, but we did not have them to have been of a crashed plane. In addition, the pilot of this attack was not an experienced pilot to have performed this complex maneuver. I finish.
Okay, Marisol, thank you. So the next question is, could the attacks have been prevented? This is my answer. It's very clear that the rapid action of the United States could have prevented the attacks from occurring. The hijacking airplanes were tracked after their disappearance off the radar, so finding their location and intercepting them would have been possible to avoid a catastrophe. As demonstrated in the video, it's likely that the collapse of the Twin Towers was caused by an internal explosion in the center of the steel structure. But in case it was only the impact of the airplanes, it's more than logical that can prevent this event. Okay, who wants to be the next? Carmen.
The United States government had enough help from the Air Force. They were also warned and ignored ignored who warned according to a conspiracy theory. The government was fall aware of the attacks and did nothing to prevent the group of terrorists. They accused the governments of allowing the terrorists to carry out the attacks because the United States has the highest technology in all aspects to avoid what happened. Finish.
Okay, thank you. Marisol, give us your answer.
Okay, my answer is surely the attacks could have been avoided because the USA government had very specific warnings of the attacks and has the best air force in the world, as well as one of the best intelligence agencies. In these events of 9/11, there were many powerful people involved, and as you can see in the video, many of these people benefit from what happened. The attack on the Twin Towers was not avoided because it was necessary for both the government and some mains. They will take their next step. I finish.
Okay, thank you. Maria Paula?
Based on everything analyzed in the video, I think that the attack of September 11 could have been avoided. It was shown that were many failures by people in command. Surveillance system protocols were ignored. The terrorists entered the United States with such ease that they were not detected in any security camera as a danger. And the most serious thing was that they didn't pay attention to the warnings from rogue terrorists months ago.
Okay, Mayerly, tell us your answer.
The warning that was given and was ignored, if they had been taken into account, any problem and attack could have been avoided since there was the option of having reinforced the military force by making the detection of airplanes by the Air Force, Israel, and thus countering any conspiracy attack. However, there was no according by the government, but they could have been avoided the U.S. National Security Agency. He would not have ignored the surveillance system devised by his analysts if they had taken theirs into account and had a defense plan.
Okay, thank you. The next question. Was Osama bin Laden really captured and killed? According to the official version, Osama bin Laden was killed on May 2 via SEALs operation. The President Barack Obama announced that after doing a DNA test to confirm the identity of the enemy, his body was thrown into the sea. However, a lot of controversy could be generated since the U.S. government could decide not to publish the photographs or the DNA samples. This creates a lot of uncertainty, since if we have seen before how the facts are camouflaged. As in the case of the Twin Towers, it would also be feasible to believe that the US government somehow clouds bin Laden death. Therefore, it's not now with 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 the truth. Bin Laden and Bin Laden location. If he was captured and killed, nobody knows. Majerli?
The death of Osama bin Laden was caused during an operation that was carried out by a small elite group of the armed force of the United States on May 2, 2011, where he was killed, although he was blamed, uh, never went to the hell for the alien crime he had committed. If was charged but not captured or persecuted to this day, no one has been for a terrible act.
Okay, thank you. Marisol?
Okay, my answer is in reality, Osama bin Laden was a decoy because they are theories that Pakistan had captured him some time ago and the USA government allegedly captured him after the attacks on the Twin Towers. On the other hand, the Marines who participated in the capture of Osama bin Laden have died and suspiciously only two remain alive. The capture and death of the author of 9/11 is still a mystery because this announcement was made to everyone. But I really do not think this has happened. I finish.
Okay, thank you. Maria Paula, tell us.
Okay. Pakistani authorities confirmed that bin Laden died in Pakistan in a clash with US military. Although much controversy was generated about the veracity of why bin Laden could not be arrested alive, President Barack Obama publicly informed of the night of May 2 that a small special operation team had killed bin Laden.
Okay, thank you. Carmen?
According to the defenders of some conspiracy theory, they claim that Osama bin Laden had nothing to do with the attacks because he denied the authorship of the attacks, and there were many doubts that the person of the video was bin Laden. According to analysts, Osama's death was very strange. It is assumed that the murder could have been a montage of the United States government's signs, according to some, that it could have died much earlier. Finish.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the last question is: was 9/11 caused by the American government on purpose. Observing the evidence of the video, it's very likely that the US government caused the 9/11, since the video shows us that his inaction to the fact was something possibly agreed. In addition to the higher ranks of the army, could have content with the important information about the fact. It's to supposes that the event of the Pentagon occurred in the area completely contrary to which in the main arm of the high ranks. It's not easy to believe that the army's chain of command, being aware of the situation, will not declare an alert state on order to protect citizens. There are so many discrepancies that surround the government way of acting that it makes the idea that the United States government could have caused 9/11 very current. Okay, Majerly?
The government carried out a terrorist self-attack because there are fundamental antecedents that demonstrate it, since several actions attribute the planning and executions of the attacks with the same government. Since the planes did not cause the fire in the Twin Towers, it was a controlled demolition. In addition, it was not a commercial Boeing 757 aircraft that in the Pentagon building, all Tower 7 of the World Trade Center collapsed in a controlled manner, and for that purpose, both explosives and incendiary bombs were used. And finally, in Jacksonville, the accident that occurred if was not caused by an airplane, but rather by something unidentified because no remains of the airplane were found.
Okay, thank you. Marisol, tell us your answer.
Okay, it is very likely. I think this has always been the USA policy. They create self attacks to have the opportunity to blame some country and then invade and seize their resources. I think this was what happened with the Twin Towers. Also, if we rely on all the evidence seen in the videos, it can be concluded that there are many inconsistencies because everything was a lie. There are many technical details of the planes that prove that the attack does not easily happen as they have said. I finish.
Okay, thank you. Maria Paula?
Okay, I think that US government didn't directly cause the attack of 9/11, but they had prior knowledge of the attack and deliberately did nothing to avoid them. In order to justify the war in Afghanistan and also the facts about the cause of the Twin Towers have not been clarified, and that these attacks were intended to justify the bombing of autonomous nations such as Iraq and Afghanistan, seize the resources of those countries and enrich themselves through the defense business. Finished?
Okay, thank you. The last, Carmen?
According to a conspiracy theory, the high-level leaders and high-level officials of the United States knew about the attacks. There were always inconsistencies and evidences that were ignored because it is assumed that the government allowed the terrorists to carry out the attacks. That is to say, let it happen to purpose. Finish.
Okay, thank you. These are all questions about the conspiracy of 9/11, and I hope see you soon in a next activity. Thank you so much.